Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Baker Institute and to Rice University for this very special event. South Asia will continue to be a region of great importance for the United States, especially in the context of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Our interests there are simply compelling. Stability in an Afghanistan that is not a safe haven for terrorists and extremists. The rise of India as a global power, and the future of Pakistan as a democratic and economically successful state. Nor can we forget that the region is home to one of the world's most dangerous territorial unresolved disputes, that of Kashmir. Tonight, our very distinguished speaker will share his unique insights into a country at the center of U.S. and global security challenges. Pakistan and the United States have worked together to combat extremism and terrorism, but our relationship is a very troubled one, as evidenced by this weekend's headlines and the TV commentary that I'm sure you've all seen. For many, the death of Osama bin Laden by U.S. Special Forces inside Pakistani territory has raised questions about the U.S.-Pakistan relationship. Pakistan itself faces serious domestic challenges. Corruption continues to be a significant concern. With a population of over 170 million people, Pakistan would be adversely impacted by increasing instability if its economic and political deficits are not addressed. To be sure, Pakistan's military has acted against extremists and terrorists based along its border with Afghanistan. But Pakistan's overall military posture remains focused on India. Since partition in 1947, Pakistan and India have gone to war several times. Both countries are nuclear weapon states. As a result, another conflict between India and Pakistan would be simply disastrous. A negotiated resolution of their territorial claims, especially that of Kashmir, would be an important step toward achieving lasting peace and stability in the region and the world. I also believe in all candor that Pakistan, especially its military and intelligence services, will continue to hedge its bets in Afghanistan by supporting proxy groups in that country in order to stave off Indian influence on its western border. That is why a comprehensive policy toward Afghanistan, from the perspective of Washington, in my humble view, has to include the Pakistani-Indian relationship in any conflict resolution. Our noted speaker has much more to say on these and other subjects, and the capacity audience here tonight at the Baker Institute underscores the interest in his views and his opinions. He is certainly no stranger to debate and discussion about the future of Pakistan and its relations with the United States. You have in your program notes his very distinguished and illustrious career. A graduate of the Pakistan Military Academy, he rose to the rank of a 4-star general and became chief of the Army staff. He took power in 1999, and he was president of Pakistan during the critical period from 2001 until 2008. It was a tough job. Time magazine has described the presidency of Pakistan as the most dangerous job in the world. On the world stage, our speaker advocates what he calls enlightened moderation, his vision for the Muslim world to shun extremism and to adopt the path of socio-economic uplift, while the West, in his view, should seek to resolve all political disputes with justice and to aid in the socio-economic betterment of the Muslim world. Our speaker has agreed to take questions after his remarks, so if you do have a question, please fill out the question and answer card on your seats, and our staff will pick them up. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming His Excellency General Pervez Musharraf.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ambassador Dragian, Bill and Bessie Barnett, and my great supporter Joanne Herring, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to have been afforded this opportunity of speaking to all of you and exchanging views about my region, about Pakistan. I personally feel the environment prevailing in the region and in Pakistan, where we are in the eye of the terrorism storm, an environment of contradictions, distortions, trust and confidence deficit prevailing. I think it is in the fitness of things to understand Pakistan, and therefore I selected this subject of Pakistan, a reality check. It saddens me more because of the present environment of confrontation almost between Pakistan and United States, between the two armies, between the two intelligence services. It saddens me because I remember my time when there was trust and confidence. I always believed that relations between two states or interstate relations, more than 50% are dependent on interpersonal relations. And may I proudly say that I had very strong interpersonal relations with President Bush and Secretary Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, where we could pick up the phone and talk to each other. There was a communication line always open. That led to good understanding. I wonder whether now, I don't really know the ground realities, whether that degree of communication, that degree of understanding between the leadership exists, or no, it is the deficiency of that intercommunication that has led to the present confrontation. But however, without much ado, let me start talking of Pakistan, a reality check. I would like to give to this very august gathering a feel of Pakistan, which you may be knowing, but I will give some touch on some critical issues which are very current, and then I would like to take on any amount of frank questions, and I'll try to give equally frank answers. I would like to start by touching on how did religious militancy get introduced in our region, in Pakistan. Is Pakistan the perpetrator of terrorism, or is it the sufferer, or is it the victim of terrorism? For this, I'll go very briefly to a short resume of our history since 1979. In 1979, ladies and gentlemen, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. It was in United States' interest to check the Soviet expansion. It was also in Pakistan's interest that for the first time Pakistan was confronted, as we saw, a two-front threat from the east, from India, but also now the Russo-Afghan forces from the west. Therefore, we launched a jihad together, a holy war. We called it a jihad. When I say we, United States and Pakistan also. We called it a jihad, a holy war, because we wanted to draw mujahideen, holy warriors from the entire Muslim world. And we did so. We got about 25 to 30,000 holy warriors or mujahideen from all over the Muslim world, armed them and pumped them into Afghanistan. And then we also trained and armed Taliban from the tribal agencies of Pakistan and sent them into Afghanistan to fight with the Afghans against the Soviets. So this, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time introduced religious militancy, a jihad in the region and in Afghanistan. Because in these 10 years, the elite of Afghanistan abandoned Afghanistan actually. And the fight against Soviets was spearheaded by religious militant groups, religious militant organizations, combined with Mujahideen, combined with Taliban. Then, ladies and gentlemen, with 10 years of warfare, jihad, which we ended in victory, end of the Cold War. We saw the start of the freedom struggle in Kashmir in 1989 exactly. With this freedom struggle in Pakistan, within Pakistan, there was great public sympathy. And therefore, dozens of mujahideen groups erupted in our society within Pakistan, recruiting people, volunteers ready to go into Kashmir to fight the Indian army. So this led to another equation of religious militancy also in our East. This public sympathy continues even now, great public sympathy. And therefore these mujahideen groups, and you may certainly have heard about LET, the Lashkar-e-Tayyaba, or Hizbul Mujahideen, we call them HM, and Jaish Mohammed, JM, all of them have great public support. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we see the period of 89 to 2001. I call this the period of disaster, really. Because in 1989, the United States decides to abandon the place without any reconstruction of Afghanistan or rehabilitation, resettlement of the Mujahideen, 25,000 people armed to the teeth, knowing nothing other than fighting, no resettlement, and they were holed up in Afghanistan. I call this the first blunder actually also. We should have resettled them, because without doing that, they coalesced into Al-Qaeda. And then warlordism started for 12 long years in the area, each ethnic group fighting with the other and destroying and ravaging Afghanistan. So these Mujahideen then become Al-Qaeda, and Taliban emerged in 1996, 95, 96. All this was happening because there was no control, there was nothing happening, nobody to check Afghanistan or help in settling, pacifying Afghanistan. Pakistan was fending for itself all alone against all this. And when all this was happening, 4 million refugees came into Pakistan. So this introduced more religious militancy, as I said, in Pakistan. Finally comes 9/11, the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and the subsequent US military offensive in Afghanistan. Now this was the time when I was in charge in Pakistan, and I decided to join the coalition. But let me say that there was certainly a divided opinion in Pakistan, and the divided opinion was based on why should we join the United States when we were let down and betrayed in 1989, having been used and betrayed. So what invariably the question asked from me, various forums, was what makes you think that we will not be betrayed again? So with that, again now we saw Al-Qaeda and Taliban after 9/11, after the offensive. All this Al-Qaeda and Taliban escaped into the mountains and cities of Pakistan. So therefore, in effect, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to highlight is that in these, from 79 onwards till now, we have seen religious militancy from the West in Afghanistan in various forms that I've said. 4 million refugees, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and in the East, in Kashmir, Mujahideen groups operating there. Its effect in the center in Pakistan, that our national fabric was torn asunder. This is what we suffered for what the events took place within Pakistan. So what I would like to certainly say, that we are the victim of religious militancy, we are the victim of terrorism and extremism that has got introduced in our society. Now, at this moment, as a result of all this, Pakistan faces 4 threats. Number one, the threat of Al-Qaeda, who are there in our mountains, but in smaller numbers, because we operated very successfully against them in our cities and mountains. But then we saw the resurgence of Taliban. So Taliban are in much greater strength now. The Afghan Taliban and the Pakistani Taliban in the tribal agencies of Pakistan. Then this Taliban, the third threat is there, these Taliban spreading their obscurantist thoughts on Islam, on religion, trying to impose it, thrust it on Pakistan in the settled districts of Pakistan. So that is the third threat which needs to be contained. And the fourth threat, because of this religious militancy, there is extremism within our society, in certain areas of our society. These extremists misusing our mosques, our madrasas, for the purpose of extremism. And it is this extremism which spawns terrorism. Therefore, it is critical that we address the issue of extremism in Pakistan. So this is the complexity, and the complexity increases because now in the region, if we see the region, it is Al-Qaeda, Taliban, it is the extremists in our society, it is the Mujahideen fighting in Kashmir, and also in India, religious extremism is rising in the Muslim youth in India. An organization which maybe you have heard, SIMI, is Students' Islamic Movement of India, gaining in strength. All these trying to develop a nexus. The story doesn't end there. There is ETIM, East Turkestan Islamic Movement in China. All these, and there are many Chinese joining the Al-Qaeda. So therefore, this is the complexity of the environment that Pakistan suffers. But the complexity is in Afghanistan, is in Pakistan, is in Kashmir in India, and even in India in the mainland. Now, the next point that I would like to cover is why is there so much antipathy against the United States in Pakistan? This is a normal question that has been asked from me everywhere that I go. Yes, indeed, it's very strange that at the government level we have to have good relations because our relationship is very broad-based. It is not only to fight terrorism. It has a socio-economic content. It has a military content. So this broad-based relationship cannot be ignored. And no government in Pakistan can ignore it. And must not be ignored, certainly. But at the people's level, unfortunately, there is an antipathy. So it's a strange situation. Now, why is there antipathy? Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very frank with this audience. We were a part of the Western camp right from 1947. We took a deliberate decision of joining the West. In the Cold War period, in the Cold War bipolar period, we were in the Western camp. India happened to be in the Eastern camp with the Soviet Union. For 42 long years we were together till 1989. And from 79 to 89 we fought the Soviets together in Afghanistan. Nothing was wrong. Till 1989, there was no problem. All the support in Afghanistan, all the US support, US backup, joint op, everything was happening through Pakistan. So what happens beyond 1989 is the question. I would say in 1989, the decision, the first blunder of the United States to quit the area, not only that, to put sanctions against Pakistan for our nuclear program and have a strategic policy shift towards India, who was in the Eastern camp in 1989. This was taken by the people of Pakistan as Pakistan being used and then thrown aside and betrayed. Not only that, when we see the nuclear issue, then we come to a different scenario. While US policy is of cooperation towards India, it is threatening towards Pakistan. And ladies and gentlemen, let me give this audience that Our Pakistan's nuclear and missile capability is the pride of every Pakistani in the streets of Pakistan, the most ignorant, illiterate Pakistani. It is his pride. And it has no offensive content. It is there because India developed its nuclear capability and it was threatening against Pakistan. Therefore, we produced this to balance and to retain our military strategy of minimum defensive deterrence against India in the conventional as well as unconventional field. So therefore, this is seen as partisan, this is seen as animosity against Pakistan and a lack of concern towards Pakistan's own sensitivities. And when we talk of Kashmir, which the ambassador has alluded to, certainly we fought 3 wars over the dispute. But when we see that United States is not even concerned about demanding or persuading or coaxing India to at least to move forward towards resolution of the dispute, because that really is the root cause of terrorism and extremism in Pakistan. So therefore, very much the equation, if we want to talk of terrorism and extremism in a holistic manner, we have to deal with Afghanistan, Pakistan and India, the 3. So I never have accepted this view of AFPAC. We are taking a very half-hearted view of the entire complexity of the situation. If we do not resolve Kashmir dispute, the extremists in Pakistan spawning terrorism, and then issues like Bombay assault or attack, the terrorist attack, other terrorist attacks possible between India and Pakistan because of this extremism and terrorism, because of the Kashmir dispute, are all possibilities which will go unsolved. So this, and then of course I don't want to talk of now the drone attacks and Osama bin Laden, the violation of sovereignty of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan are more concerned about the violation of sovereignty of Pakistan other than the killing of Osama bin Laden is almost dead. The issue is dead. But the issue of why our sovereignty was violated is very much alive. So this is why there is an antipathy against United States. Why is there a trust and confidence deficit between the 2 countries? I would like to answer this also. May I say that it even started at a certain level, in the media at least, even against me. Let me say why, because this needs to be understood. Another big blunder that we committed, that United States committed, was after 9/11, having defeated the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and their command structure totally dismantled, and they're running helter-skelter into Pakistan mountains and cities. There was a total vacuum in Afghanistan. A vacuum where military had delivered victory and a position of strength and a political vacuum. There was a requirement of shift to the political instrument back in 9/11, after the victory, in 2002. And a political instrument where we should have installed a legitimate government in Kabul. A legitimate government can only be with the dominance of Pashtun, who happen to be 50% of Afghanistan. Unfortunately, that was not done. And this window of opportunity, which continued from 2002 to 2004, for 2 long years, Taliban were in disarray. Taliban resurgence started in 2004. We did not use this 2-year period. On Pakistan side, I had a strategy that we need to wean away the Pashtun from Taliban. And this weaning away, because I used a term that all Taliban are Pashtun, but all Pashtun are not Taliban. So therefore, there is a requirement of weaning away Pashtuns from Taliban. And I started through a very tribal custom of jirga, a gathering of notables. which is how they resolve their disputes. So this jirga of 150 people we didn't know. One didn't know surely which one is a Taliban, which one is a Pashtun. Everyone has a beard, everyone is carrying a weapon. So therefore, there was certainly a possibility that in this jirga they were Taliban also. But my theory was, doesn't matter. Even if we get 50% on our side, we'll use them to identify the Taliban and use them to fight them. So that was the strategy that I thought needs to be pursued on the Pakistan side. But unfortunately, I know in 2005 and beyond, in the media they were saying that I am double dealing, I am double crossing, while it was those people who were attacking me. So this mistrust, which showed maybe a lack of understanding, a lack of strategic comprehension of what needed to be done, was there. Then, again in my time, I would say, at occasions, there was an issue of micromanagement. And my theory always used to be, we should watch the strategic plane and our intentions to fight and defeat Al-Qaeda and Taliban, leave micromanagement and tactics and modalities to us. Maybe we understand our own environment better than you. So there were sometimes some misunderstanding on that score. Now, the issue of North Waziristan and operations against a personality, Afghan personality called Siraj Haqqani, certainly is leading to more mistrust. There is a feeling here that the army is not operating against Siraj Haqqani. Maybe the ISI is complicit with Siraj Haqqani and this Taliban group. I can't comment on it. I don't know it. But whatever the reality, I believe Pakistan needs to clarify its position. Pakistan needs to act or give reasons why it is not acting. Is there a time issue involved? Is there a strategy involved when they will maybe act later? I don't know it. But this needs to be, I think, this doubt in the minds of people in the United States does need to be clarified. And on this score, the ball lies in the court of ISI and the army and the government in Pakistan. The role of India, I would be remiss really if I did not highlight another area which creates confusion in Pakistan. I know for one fact that India is trying to create an anti-Pakistan Afghanistan. And I would be remiss if I did not point this out. Now that goes against the interest of joint operations, unified thought and action against terrorists, against Al-Qaeda, against Taliban, because we have to then safeguard our backyard. And to give a proof of this, I, in my time, have been asking President Karzai and all Afghan government that we would like to give you free training to all your diplomats, your security, your military, your intelligence. But let me very sadly say, not one was sent to Pakistan. Not one even now is in Pakistan. All of them go to India for training. This itself leads to an understanding what is happening. Are we the enemy? Are we together in the war against terror? So this issue, other than resolution of Kashmir dispute, is an important issue as far as Pakistan is concerned. Osama bin Laden killing is important. It has led to a lot of suspicions, whether it was that Pakistan army or intelligence or government, is it a case of complicity or a case of negligence? I personally believe very strongly it's a case of negligence. I would like to take any question if anyone has, but the only thing that I would like to say is it is possible that ISI did not know. People say, how is it possible that just such a strong intelligence organization didn't know? Well, they didn't know, probably, as I don't know the reality. I'm not speaking through facts that have been revealed to me, but I know that they were not using any telecommunication. So therefore, ISI is banking on human intelligence. And most of the interviews that I've seen on Pakistan television channels, in various television channels in Pakistan, interviewing people around, thousands of people around, not one has said, we knew there is Osama bin Laden there. And may I also say that I believe, again, I've read it, that CIA had occupied an office next to the house. Even they, till very, very late, didn't know Osama is there. For months, they didn't know. How is it that they were living next door and they didn't know? And to give another argument, if Pakistan or ISI or army knew that Osama bin Laden is there, I'm very sure they would have known CIA office is next door, that CIA operatives are sitting next door. So, if also may I give another argument, if I am allowed, if the CIA on 9/11 didn't know that there were 18 people under training to carry out terrorist attack in the United States, didn't know when they hijacked 4 planes from different airfields, didn't know when the airplanes went and they changed route and went into the World Trade Center, didn't know when one of the aircrafts went and hit the Pentagon. If the CIA, which is such a strong organization, in a lighter mood, I say that if they were asleep, allow ISI to be sleeping once at least. They were asleep. I think they were. But however, we cannot absolve them of responsibility they should have known. And we need to investigate why was it not known. And we need to punish anyone who was involved because on this lapse. So I'm not trying to absolve responsibility. We should have known. But I strongly believe that it is not a case of complicity. Because it is this element which is leading to absolute mistrust between the United States and... Because if there was complicity by the army and ISI, it's a very serious case, certainly. Then we are not together on war on terror. But may I also add, because this is such an important subject, if he was there for 5 years, which my logic doesn't appeal, then he was there in my time. So for 2 years, now I can for sure, with 100% guarantee, give this audience, whether you believe it or not, that I didn't know. Now, is it possible that the army and the ISI was hiding from me? No. Absolutely 0% chance. They are my people. I have commanded them. How could they ever hide from me? If any top layer was hiding, the second and third and fourth layer would have come and told me that this is happening. So, enough, I think. If still somebody has doubts, I would still like to talk about it. Now, let's talk of way ahead. These are the problems. There is a trust deficit. There is a confidence deficit. There is an antipathy of the people. But we have to fight the war on terror. We have to defeat it. It's in the interest, first of all, of Pakistan, and then even of India and the region, and then the world also. So therefore, we cannot fail. Now, what do we do to restore trust? First of all, we have to restore trust. A lot depends on the leadership, of course. I wouldn't be able to say much about the leadership in Pakistan. But we have to talk straight to each other. Leadership at the ISI level, at the army level, at the government level. With the United States, their opposite numbers. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, we must, first of all, convince here that there was no complicity on Osama bin Laden. strongly. And we must give strong reasons why we are not acting against Haqqani in North Waziristan. And on the United States side, I would think that the United States must remain cognizant or take into concern our sensitivities. After all, Pakistan has its own honor and dignity as a sovereign state. And therefore, our concerns, our sensitivities must be considered by United States. That is the start of any trust building, confidence building at the top level. At the people's level, I think gradually it will take time, then only will it be restored. But this element of quitting in 2014 adds another dimension, may I add. I have always been saying quitting, leaving the place cannot be time related. It has to be effect related. What effects do you want to create there? You cannot leave and you must not leave without stabilizing in Afghanistan. Because if you do that, nobody seems to be analyzing the fallout of leaving an unstable Afghanistan. Maybe we revert to 1989, where there was mayhem and every ethnic group fighting each other, or 1996, when Northern Alliance of the three smaller ethnic groups, Uzbek, Hazaras, Tajiks versus Pashtuns as Taliban. We will revert to that. And Al-Qaeda and terrorism will have a field day there, spawning or projecting their activities all over the world, especially in Pakistan and India. We must resolve the Kashmir dispute. And we must counter this element of India trying to create an anti-Pakistan Afghanistan. Pakistan itself, other than fighting Al-Qaeda, Taliban, terrorism, one area which is being ignored and which I would like to emphasize, extremism in our society. This spawns terrorism. We have to counter that. We have to fight against extremism. And I had visualized 5 elements of this strategy just to run through. Number 1, check the misuse of mosques towards terrorism and extremism. And some mosques are misused. Check the misuse of literature, producing hate literature, inciting people to terrorism, sectarian, ethnic, religious. Check the publication of such books and pamphlets and leaflets. Thirdly, we need to ban religious organizations, militant religious organizations. I had banned 4 or 5 of them before 9/11, by the way. But then you have to have a strong control that they don't rise by other names. Fourthly, we need to modify our curriculum and syllabus at the schools, which we have done. I had done. I think that is achieved, which was more oriented, sometimes oriented towards sectarian violence. And lastly, a madrasa strategy which needs to mainstream the madrasa students and disallow misuse of madrasas towards terrorism and extremism. So this element of extremism in our society needs to be focused by the law enforcement agencies in Pakistan and the government in Pakistan. And I feel that this is generally ignored. We cannot do that. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, is easier said than done. It is only possible if there is a government in Pakistan which has a comprehension, has the comprehension of all these nuances of terrorism and extremism. It has the very strong following of the people, confidence and trust of the people. And lastly, it has the determination, the courage to face this complexity squarely and deal with it boldly. Now, unfortunately, presently, there is a political void in Pakistan. There is a dysfunctional government. I won't go into the details. And the political alternative with the approaching elections in 2013 is much worse, if not equally bad. So therefore, there is no light visible at the end of the tunnel. Because the solution lies in a political democratic transition to a government which can handle the situation. But at the moment, on the political horizon, there is a leadership vacuum and there is a political party vacuum to handle the situation. Therefore, we need to create another political alternative. We have to do that in the interest of Pakistan. It is only another political alternative seen by the people of Pakistan and the people of the world to be a viable alternative to the present problems of Pakistan. And therefore, a transition through that third alternative to ensure the proper leadership, to ensure the proper political will to fight the problems, to handle the problems. Now, with such a political change, of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is only with such a political change that we can handle breaking the status quo, the political logjam or the status quo in Pakistan, bringing a functional government, concentrating on the welfare of the people and development of the state. Because I think that is the responsibility of government and leaders. A robust economic growth, which now at the moment Pakistan's economy is nosediving downwards. We have to, and it saddens me also, because in 1999, Pakistan was a failed and defaulted state almost. But in 2006, we were declared as one of the next 11 countries of the world, after the BRIC 4, Brazil, Russia, India, China. Pakistan was one of the N11 economically upwards country of the world. So therefore, all these things are possible, but the basis is political change. I would like to conclude by saying that therefore, as I see Pakistan, if I may be allowed to use Saddam Hussein's term, the next elections in Pakistan are going to be the mother of all elections. For the sake of Pakistan, we have to break the political status quo. And I am very conscious of this, and may I say that I am trying to contribute my bit to bring this change about. We need to have determination, and if it is in Pakistan's destiny to rise as a moderate, progressive Islamic state, we have to do something to break the political status quo. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, General Musharraf, for that very comprehensive overview. We have many, many questions. We'll only be able to take a few of them, but in terms of the recently reported suspension of up to $800 million in United States assistance to the Pakistani military, what do you think will be the effect of this decision in the long and the short term?
The stopping of the aid?
Yes.
Certainly it will be disastrous. It is not in the interest not only of Pakistan, but also not in the interest of United States. I think if Pakistan is weakened, how do we fight terrorism? Either we should think that Pakistan does not have a role in fighting terrorism, but I believe that it certainly has a key role. So we are weakening the country and the army which is to fight the terrorists. So I think it will have a negative role, a negative effect certainly on Pakistan Army, on its resources, on its capability to fight terrorism. So therefore, it needs to have a rethink, certainly.
You commented on U.S. policy toward Afghanistan and the various timelines, 2014. Several questions on that, but one that's particularly focused on Pakistani policies toward Afghanistan. If U.S. troops do leave Afghanistan in this time frame, how do you see Pakistan's policies toward Afghanistan evolving?
In 2014?
Yes.
Certainly, I mean, if we glance back to 1989, Pakistan was in dire straits. We didn't know how to handle the situation after the United States quit the area. So obviously we had to fend for ourselves. And then later on, when Taliban came into being, we had a choice of either being on the side of Northern Alliance or on the side of Taliban, whether to recognize Taliban or no. Northern Alliance was being assisted, helped actively by India and Russia and also Iran. Pakistan had ethnic links with the Taliban. They were all Pakhtuns. Ethnic, historic, religious and geographic links. So now in 2014, unless we stabilize, and as I said, if we revert back to either 1989 or 2004 or 1996, Pakistan will again have to work out its choices. How do we handle the situation? And here now, may I add, we are talking of dealing with Taliban as a solution. While as I said, had we done that back in 2002 to 2004, we would be speaking from a position of strength. Now, when we are talking of Taliban, I really don't know who are the Taliban, because Mullah Umar is Taliban, Siraj Haqqani is Taliban, Gulbuddin Hikmatyar in the Kunar province is Taliban. On the Pakistan side, TTP, TNSM, they are all Taliban. So Taliban is not a uni-headed being or an organization. It is divided. So therefore now Pakistan, why I've said this, will have to make its choice on how to handle whatever is going to happen in Afghanistan. It's a very difficult position for Pakistan to fight terrorism and extremism, and also to counter maybe an unstable Afghanistan as it was in the 90s.
Several questions on expressing concerns about Pakistan's internal stability. Some people say that Pakistan will become a failed state. Another common question: after the recent attacks on a naval base in Karachi, do you believe that terrorist groups have infiltrated the Pakistani armed forces? What is your general response to Pakistan as a failed state, its potentiality of becoming a failed state?
Pakistan was being considered almost a failed state in 1999. It has more to do with, first of all, the economy. I think if we are economically viable and strong, I don't think Pakistan will ever be a failed state. However, other than that is the issue of, as you are mentioning, terrorism and extremism, whether that has gone into the army also. Well, army over the years, ladies and gentlemen, while in the older times, in my time and maybe even beyond, came from the upper middle and upper class, the officers especially. But now it is officered by middle and lower middle class. So therefore, these people do come from all segments of our society, from all over Pakistan. Therefore, there is maybe some elements who are affected by the environment from which they come. But however, Pakistan's discipline, army's discipline is such that they fall into the mold of that very strong disciplinary handling within the army. So I strongly believe that the army, being such a disciplined force, will not go towards extremism and terrorism as an organization. That is unthinkable. So as long as this army, which is the unifying force, which is the strongest integrating force of Pakistan, is there as a viable, strong force, there is no way that Pakistan can be a failed state. So we have to ensure a viable economy for Pakistan, and that is the government's job. We have to remove the political chaos in Pakistan, which is again a political issue. I do not contribute to this idea that Pakistan can be a failed state. There can be chaos, there can be an anarchy, which is in some parts of Pakistan now developing, especially in Karachi, which is terrible. But I think with the strong government understanding the realities on ground, all these things can be handled.
You mentioned Karachi, General. It's a question, in spite of so much aid and wealth from the outside and from the United States, why have not presidents of Pakistan, including during your tenure, do anything to ease in a significant way the living of the middle-class people, providing them with security, day-to-day life, necessities like electricity, roads, and transportation, especially in cities like Karachi?
Well, this, as far as I am concerned, in my time, we were exactly my definition for myself and for any government in Pakistan or any third world country. And this definition I drew back in 2001, that my responsibility is ensure the security, progress, development of the state, welfare, well-being of its people. And I elaborate on each: welfare of the people, ensure poverty alleviation, employment generation, education, health, progress and development of the state, ensure a strong economy, and then communication infrastructure or industry or agriculture, water management, telecommunication, IT, etc. And I followed that. Now, when you are saying that why didn't we ensure, as far as I'm concerned, if I was to take some significant, electricity is one of the areas that has been pointed out. We generated 2,900 megawatts additional electricity in those 6 years. Unfortunate reality was, while in 1999, when I came on the scene, our power electricity generation was more than the demand, more than our requirement. And the problem was that we had about 14 independent power producers brought in 1994. The deal was that we will pay them 70% of their generation capacity even if we did not use that electricity. And we were paying them without using that electricity. But then with our very fast industrial growth, 2000, 2001 onwards, at double figures, 16 to 18%, and tremendous commercial activity because of the rise in the economy, our demand for electricity kept rising. And while we added 2,900 megawatts of electricity, it fell short of the demand. So therefore, we were fell short. Otherwise, we did a lot towards electricity. I don't know what other points were there, and now, if we are talking now, roads, and the people's unrest on the issue of energy, today, I'm boring this gathering with figures. Today, Pakistan has a capacity of 19,500 megawatts of electricity. And today, the government is generating only about 10,000, roughly I'm telling. And the demand today is not more than 14,000 megawatts. The total generation capacity of Pakistan is more than Pakistan's demand at the moment, because our industrial output has gone down, commercial activity has gone down, that much demand is not there. But unfortunately, there is a circular debt problem where the government where the power producers are not being paid for the electricity that they generate, and they are not paying to the gas and oil companies which is providing oil and gas. There is a circular debt problem. So the problem is not of a lack of generation capacity. The problem is a circular debt which the government is unable to handle, unfortunately, and therefore unrest in Pakistan on the energy issue.
Many questions that are preceded by "if you become president."
Sorry?
Many questions with the preface, "if you become president again of Pakistan." What do you plan to do different in your relations with, for example, there are several questions, I'm going to read several of them, your relations with the United States, with India, the Taliban, Afghanistan, the West in general. If you come to power again, how would you plan to stand in favor of women on the political front and also in general society? If you become president, will you allow a free press and not a controlled media? If you become president, what will you do first to establish a sound and fair justice system? So there,
the last one, sorry?
A fair and sound justice system.
Yes. No, frankly, first of all, if I become president, you have to make sure that I become the president. First of all is that. And the other is, now, frankly, I do not have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, most of the elements that have been mentioned, whether it is women's rights, whether it is freedom of the media, all this I did. Every element, socio-economic development of Pakistan, I myself did. Let me, since this is so many ifs, if I am allowed to, first of all, democracy with which you have such an obsession, and which I also agree that democracy is the right way forward, but tailoring it to Pakistan's needs and ensuring checks and balances is the key which I was trying to ensure. Now, on democracy, I have always believed that in Pakistan, we have, and may I say that the West and United States is satisfied with elections, thinking that now an elected government is the end of democracy. While I personally believe that is the start of democracy. How that government, that elected government governs is democracy. Now, as far as I'm concerned, in the elected government, we first of all empowered the people of Pakistan. I introduced a local government system where the people were financially, administratively, politically empowered at the district and lower level to run their own affairs. And they had all the resources. And that is how we ensured development. Then we empowered the women of Pakistan. At each tier of government, we gave reserved seats to women. At the district level, 30% of the elected members were reserved for women. And at the National Assembly of Pakistan, 23% were women, are women now. So this was done by me, empowerment of women. And then empowerment of the minorities. And then freeing the media. When I came in 1999, there was only one channel in Pakistan, the Pakistan Television, controlled state channel. Today, there is no space on the rostrum for the speakers that have to be put there. About over 70 channels in Pakistan. People say that I am a victim of my own creation. I created, in spite of the fact that 90% of the people in government at that time, for many reasons, were against allowing the media to be free. But I overruled and did that. So as far as I am concerned, I allowed that. Then, as far as the development of the state and welfare of the people are concerned, enough to say that I don't have to reinvent the wheel, I don't have to do anything different, I just have to repeat whatever I did. I could speak for an hour on how we revived the economy of Pakistan. On the economy of Pakistan, we checked the fiscal deficit, in that the expenditures on defense were frozen. Government expenditure on government itself, which was the highest, was brought down. And subsidies to failing government corporations were eliminated almost. and our earning from revenues increased 300%, from 308 billion rupees to we crossed 1 trillion in 6 years. So that was the turning around of the fiscal deficit. The balance of payment deficit, we increased our earnings because our remittances increased by about 600%. The FDI increased by about, you'll be surprised, from 500 to 8, it needs some mathematics, some about 2,000%. And our exports increased by about 150%. And our expenditure on debt service liability, through our interaction, my interaction with the United States and Paris Club, to whom we owed about $13 billion, rescheduling all that, reduced our debt service liability from $5 billion to $2 billion. So therefore, we turn around the balance of payment deficit. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, per capita income, our economy was growing at 8.4%. And economy grew from $70 billion to $170 billion. Per capita income grew from $430 to crossed $1,000. Now, this is what we achieved in 6 years. I could give a talk of maybe 1 hour on this subject of what we did. But the negative I must address, judiciary, yes.
Judiciary.
Because there is you did mention, somebody has mentioned that. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, I moved against the Chief Justice of Pakistan in March 2007. That was a reference sent by the government, by the Prime Minister, to the President, and I saw the legal constitutional element in it, that any accusation against a judge is to be decided by, in the Constitution of Pakistan, even written now, by a Supreme Judicial Council, composed of 5 judges, 3 senior-most Supreme Court judges, and 2 of the High Court Chief Justices. I did exactly my constitutional legal responsibility of passing that reference which came from Prime Minister to the Supreme Judicial Council to give a judgment against the accusation. But however, that unfortunately was politicized, and lawyers' riot started, and I thought the Supreme Judicial Council will give a judgment, but they did not give the judgment, and they delayed, and I think that turmoil started snowballing. Then Benazir Bhutto came, she got assassinated, so I think the whole transition got upset. I had planned, even if I digress from the question, I had planned a 3-stage transition when I came into power in 99. The first stage, I thought 99 to 2002, given to me by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, that I will stabilize Pakistan. And I was wearing 4 hats. I was the Army Chief, I was the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, I was the President, and I was the Prime Minister. And in those 3 years, I did stabilize. The second stage, I thought, between 2002 and 2007, I will bring in an elected government, and I will shed my 2 responsibility. I will retain Army Chief and the President of Pakistan. In the third stage, when we had elections in 2007, I thought I will shed off my uniform and I'll remain as a civilian president, and then say goodbye to Pakistan and fade off. But unfortunately, it was the third stage which went wrong, and unfortunately, we are suffering even now. But as far as I'm concerned, if I come back as president, which frankly I'm trying, let me admit that I've created a party of my own for the sake of Pakistan. I'm not doing it for myself, because I'm very happy on my lecture circuits, which is looked after by Harry Walker Agency, and they give me good money also. So therefore, I'm touring all over the world, East and Europe and Singapore and Hong Kong, etc., and I'm comfortable. I can live anywhere in UK or UAE or United States for that matter. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm comfortable. But for the sake of Pakistan, as I said, unless we produce that third political alternative, Pakistan's future is dark. And therefore, I thought, irrespective of the risks involved, the dangers involved, I have entered into politics, and we will try to create that third alternative. And if we succeed, I know what to do. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I'm very sure, as I said, on the domestic and the international. On the international side, I have had relations with all leaders of the world. And the important ones for Pakistan certainly is the United States, the Gulf countries, the Islamic countries, China. I had personal relations with all of them. Good personal relations with all the leadership. So I don't have to reinvent anything, really.
Thank you, General. You know, we're going through our own electoral campaign here in the United States, so you have to be a little careful about. One last question. Pakistani-Indian relations, which are so important, and the issue of Kashmir. Do you believe that the Kashmiris now want to be a part of Pakistan, or do they want to be an independent state?
Many people in Kashmir, yes, especially people outside, Kashmiris outside, do want an independent Kashmir. But let me take the entire ambit of Indo-Pakistan relations and Kashmir. There is no doubt in my mind that we have to have peace in the region. Not only for fighting against terror, but we are known to be a nuclear flashpoint. And another war with India would be disastrous. The SAARC, which is our only organization in South Asia, is impotent because of the conflict between India and Pakistan. So in the interest of world peace, in the interest of regional socio-economic development and cooperation, and in the interest of both India and Pakistan, we must have peace. This is my inner conviction, which I was following. And in having peace with India, we have to resolve the Kashmir dispute. And I'm very proud to say that I was moving forward on it. Almost neared an ultimate solution. And on that solution, I had taken even the Kashmiri leaders on Pakistan side and on the Indian side. Even a person like Yasin Malik, who has always been for independent Kashmir and the strongest proponent of independent Kashmir, I convinced him, you cannot get an independent Kashmir. Neither will India allow it, nor will Pakistan allow it. So don't keep fighting for a mirage. Understand realities, and we convinced, and they all got convinced. All APHC members, which are the Indian Kashmir, who are against India, the APHC members, all of them got convinced about my attempts and my theory of resolution of that dispute was based on certain parameters, and very proudly I can say that it was my own thinking. Number one, graduated demilitarization from the line of control and from the cities. Number two, maximum governance to be given to the people. Number three, having an overwatch over all the governance that we devolve to the people. And number four, the most tricky, is the issue of the line of control, which India thinks that it should be made permanent and forget about everything. And Pakistan thinks that is the dispute over which we have fought wars. It cannot be permanent. So my theory was, let's make the line of control irrelevant. Irrelevant by opening 6 trade routes for people-to-people movement and for trade. Open it up. So, and we were progressing on those parameters. But may I also say that I believe that in any deal or any agreement, if you want to reach resolution of dispute, there are 3 qualities required in the leadership. Number one is sincerity from the heart and mind. And I believe my interaction with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh may I say that he was sincere, absolutely. Flexibility is the second quality, where we must show flexibility to each other's views. And again, I would give all the credit to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh that he was flexible, and we were, both of us, trying to be flexible. Lastly is courage and boldness. Now that is where courage is required, because you have to, in reaching an agreement, there is a give and take involved. You have to go halfway, you have to give something to take something. Now it is the giving part which becomes difficult. I think, Ambassador, you would know all these things much more better than me on these issues of diplomacy. It is when you give, there will be agitation in your backyard, because always in both sides there are extremists who will not accept this giving part. That is where leadership has to be courageous enough to stand up and do it for national gains, even if there is political loss. But sometimes leadership does not rise to that occasion. And also, may I say, fleeting opportunities come and go. They do not persist forever. So there was an opportunity between me and Vajpayee, Prime Minister Vajpayee, and we were moving forward. But unfortunately, we didn't grasp it when he went for elections and BJP got defeated. We lost another 1.5, 2 years. Then we restarted with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. And we were again moving forward. But we've lost that opportunity again. Unfortunately, I would say that in 2007, he was supposed to come to Pakistan. And I had said that when you come, we must sign a deal. Because if you come and we don't sign a deal, it will be a flat failure. And we had agreed. But for whatever reasons, whether it was instability in Pakistan, a degree of instability, there wasn't much. He didn't come. So we lost the opportunity again. We are back to square one. We've lost the fleeting opportunity. I only hope that the government on both sides, whoever the government, whoever the leaders, understand that peace between India and Pakistan is an absolute necessity.
General Musharraf, thank you very much on behalf of our audience here in the Baker Institute for your insights.